Welcome to Space World. Let's go.
Is there a series you really enjoy, where you play as a character with a cool design, but he's often overshadowed by other gaming franchises? Well, for me, I feel like Rayman is one of those series that's often overlooked. I mean, sure, I see him in Smash discussions, sometimes in Brawlhalla, and his name has been brought up here and there. But that's kind of it. People just seem to know the character rather than the series itself. I know people have reviewed Rayman games, but most of them only review the first 3 games. It's a shame, because there's so much stuff that needs to be uncovered for this series, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna review the whole Rayman series. I might not review every spin-off, but maybe a good chunk of them. And of course, I'm gonna do the game that started it all, Rayman 1 on the PS1. The game starts out with a guy named Magician, and he tells you the story of Rayman! The world is at peace, and shows us the great platoon which keeps balance in the world. But then, the evil Mr. Dark steals the great platoon and defeats Patilla the Fairy as she tries to protect it. With the world unbalanced and the Electoons in cages, it's up to Rayman to save the day. Once you name your save file, you start out in the Dream Forest. And right off the bat, you can't do much other than walk, jump, and crawl. Strangely, if you want to crawl right, you have to hold R1 or R2. And to crawl left, you have to hold L1 or L2. I mean, if a controller has a lot of buttons, might as well give them a purpose. Anyways, after a walk in the forest, you meet up with Patilla the Fairy, and she's gonna give you new abilities on your quest. The first ability is punching. You can charge your fist, which makes it shoot further, and punch it in the air gives you a medium range. Now that you can punch, you can do things like punch certain objects, cages, and fight off enemies. Okay, so now we can enter the second level, and this is where we face our first boss, Bizit. He's pretty easy. We beat him and he starts crying. We gave him a pet, then give him a high five, and boom, friendship. Then we get to ride Bizit through the forest. We meet up with Patilla again, and now we can hang on ledges, which is pretty handy. The next level we find Terrazan. Terrazan then gives you a seed, planting it creates a platform, and the level starts flooding, and you gotta get out of there quickly. Okay, let's just fast forward through a few more levels and get to Mosquito. He's much like Bits, but a little harder. After beating Mosquito, you get your next ability from Patilla, grabbing rings, and trust me, this move is broken. So finally, we can head to the next world, Bandland, and this is where the game gets difficult. And okay, there's something I need to address here. Every time I hear people talk about Rayman 1, I always hear the same complaints over and over of how the game is too difficult or unfair. Heck, sometimes I hear people say it's bad because it's hard. I find it sad how a lot of difficult games get criticized just for being too hard. I mean, if a game has bad controls like being stiff, slow, or really bad level design, then okay, sure. But I think Rayman's controls are pretty solid in my opinion. And I don't think the level design is as bad as many people has made it out to be. Also, one thing I find really annoying is how Rayman 1 is often compared to other hard games like Dark Souls. Like, come on, they're not even in the same genre. Okay, I'll talk more about the game's difficulty once I beat the game. Alright, let's get back to Bandland. And here we are introduced to many new things like ice physics and new enemies. This level isn't too bad, but man, it's long. It's the longest level in the game. I always try to get all the cages so I don't have to replay through it again. Oh, fun fact, while I was writing the script, I found a neat Easter egg in this area. There's a string of tings that plays Ye Claire de Lune. You learn something new every day. So going through more areas and whoa, what happened here? Why are there just small slippery platforms here? Well, it looks like we're going to have to do some tight platforming. A bit of a pro tip on getting through this part, hold right. Trust me, when it comes to ice physics, it's best to go with the flow than to play it safe. And we meet up with Mr. Sax, and then he left. Okay. We met up with Patilla again, and she gave us the power to use helicopter. Ugh, finally. You know, I always feel like grab power and the helicopter should have swapped places. So, going through and, wait. This isn't Bandland? Where am I? Alright, so now we're fighting Mr. Sax for real this time. This is a pretty cool boss fight. You take a few hits out of him and then he starts chasing you. And you fall down into a piano room where you gotta dodge his bombs. Until he shoots a small note so you can hit it back at him. Mr. Sax is a good boss. Okay, let's head to Blue Mountains. This world is kind of a mix between Dream Forest and Bandland, but with less ice and death pits. In here, this is where we meet Mr. Stone, and he's probably my favorite boss in the game. He starts chasing you, but I can only walk! You gotta dodge some obstacles and make sure Mr. Stone doesn't get too close to you, or you'll get your ass whooped. I really like this moment where you fell into a safe spot and Mr. Stone is above you trying to scout you down. And then eventually he gets angry and leaves. It's a small detail I really enjoy. Okay, so we meet up with the magician and his family. He's pretty bummed out because his guitar got smashed by a boulder. Ah, that sucks, man. And of course, Rayman breaks a boulder to make him a new guitar. Actually, it's not clear whether Rayman made him a guitar or there was a guitar inside the boulder. Anyway, the magician gives you a potion which makes you fly around the level, which is sweet. The next area you get to use the potion again, but this time you have a giant rock with stones tied to a rope and a flood slowly going down. Yeesh, this is a bit much. Yeah, I remember being stuck on this when I was a kid. So what you need to do is you gotta use your hair to cut the rope. Yeah, I wish they put a rope to cut in the previous area, that way you will know what you're supposed to do. So now we're fighting Mr. Stones. So what you need to do is hit the smiling stone to bonk Mr. Stone on the head. You need to wait for him to get a rock, then punch it out of his hand. Then jump on the rock so you can hit the smiling rock. Once he's defeated, the smiling rock takes over Mr. Stone's body, and he starts dancing. Man, I love this guy. Now we finally get our last power from Batilla, running. Alright, now that we got all the power-ups, we can backtrack to the earlier levels to break all the cages. I really like replaying the earlier levels with all the power-ups, because you can just breeze through the levels and go through paths you couldn't get to before. Got all the cages, now let's enter into Picture City. Oh boy, this world is kind of a mess actually. I mean, I like the look of this world, but the levels are kind of all over the place. It's a play where fighting pirates. This is where we meet Space Mama. This fight isn't too bad. You just gotta let her shoot the swords out, then jump on them so you can punch her. After beating Space Mama, this is where I think the level design gets a little bit weird and somewhat confusing. You have pins that leads to a dead end, but you actually need to go to the bottom. One area where you just start in a field of bouncing erasers, follow up with a jump that looks impossible, but all you have to do is hold right. And there's even one area that's designed like a baby's first Kaizo level. Like geez, it feels like the devs had a cool idea for a world, but they don't know how they want the levels to be structured. And now we're face to face with the hardest boss, Space Mama. According to fans, yeah, I agree. She starts out in a flying washing machine, which can hurt you. She'll take a step closer when you punch her, but she's supposed to get knocked back, but it doesn't work half the time. She sends out crock pots and gets behind a washing machine. Like damn, they went all out on this boss. Phew. Okay, she's down, and apparently I managed to beat her without getting hit. Did I mention I play this game a lot? Yeah. Uh-oh, it looks like Batilla has been captured by Mr. Dark. Oh no! Let's quickly head to Cave of Scops. This world is a lot like Blue Mountains, but with more pits and more spikes. It's also pretty relaxing. Okay, I'm getting hungry. Let's head to eat at Joe's. Joe gives you a firefly to help you get through the dark part of the cave. Oh, wow, it's pitch black in here. With the firefly, you need a punch to see what's up ahead. It seems a bit annoying, but it's only for this area. In here, we need to go deeper into the cave. Oh yeah, so I actually have an old recording of my playthrough, where I try to grab the ring, but I can't because I don't have the second fist power up. So I continued through the level and eventually found the speed power, and I managed to pull this off. Okay, if that doesn't prove I'm a god at this game, then I don't know what else to prove. Alright, so continuing forward, we need to insert this plug, and now we can ride on this saucer. In the next area, there's more saucers, but now you gotta punch giant spike balls and hit switches. Okay, we're out of the cave. So, are you ready for a quick game of Wipeout? This level isn't that great. It's just jumping on floating balls. Tight jumps between spike balls and that damn fish. Just jump over him. It's not worth punching unless you know the timing of his jump. Finally, the last level. Questionmark? It's pretty much another cave level, but all the cages are in this area. Beat it, and we're now meeting up with Mr. Scops, and he's pissed. He starts slamming on the ground, which brings the platforms down, and shoots his claw at you. When all the platforms are gone, he gets close to the edge, and you need to hang on the ledge. But don't hang on for too long, because if Mr. Scops slams the ground while you're hanging on, you'll fall off. Now I have seen speedruns where you can punch Mr. Scops to push him back, so you don't have to hang on the ledge, but I never tried it out. And after the lava starts rising, Mr. Scops is shooting sparks out of his tail, putting the platforms down. Now we actually fight Mr. Scops. What you need to do is wait for him to shoot his spark attack, and you gotta punch it back at him. You know, I've seen some reviewers having no idea you're supposed to punch the spark, but instead they try to dodge it and hopefully the spark shoots back at him. Don't do it this way, please. Oh no, I don't like how Mr. Dark is staring at Patilla like that. Now if you want to unlock the final world, you need to break every cage. But since I'm a nerd, I already break all the cages, so we can head to Candy Cashew. Alright, Candy Cashew. Oh god, we're already surfing. Okay, you just gotta time your jumps so you don't fall into the pits. But don't gain too much speed around the end, because there's a puddle of juice you need to jump over. There he is, Mr. Dark. And he spawned an evil clone of Rayman called Bad Rayman. Ooh. He mimics your every move, and if he touches you, you die. It's actually not that bad. As long as you don't jump around too much, you should get through it just fine. Now Mr. Dark is putting a curse on Rayman. Now your movement is reversed. You only have to do it for half the level. For the other half, Mr. Dark puts another curse on you, where you run automatically and all you can do is jump? Oh no. Hey, he stole our fist! Get back here! So we're finally facing against Mr. Dark, and he has our fist. How dare you tease me like this? Well, it looks like all we can do is dodge his fireball attacks and... Wait. You're Doom, Rayman? Oh god, the fire's closing in. Help! Oh look, the Electoons. They're trying to get my fist back. Alright, let the real fight begin. Ow, he left. We're just fighting mashups of bosses we already fought. And the first one is Mr. Scops with Mr. Stone's body. The second is Space Mama with Bit's body, which is really easy. And the last one is Bits with Space Mama's body and Mr. Sack's shoes while being small. And after that, that's it. We beat the game. With the fireworks show, credits, and a message from Rayman saying, See you soon. God, that hurts so much. Well, now that I finished the game, I can talk about my overall thoughts on it. Rayman 1 is just fantastic. I love just about everything about this game, from its beautiful creative worlds, lovely soundtrack, fully animated characters and getting power-ups. That goes from being pretty handy to pretty much almost changing the game completely. Now, one thing I've often hear is how the level design is awful. And while I do think some levels have some questionable designs, I actually think Rayman 1's level design is kind of underrated. Take this level in Dream Forest for example. You see a platform turning from left and right instantly, and there's more of them on the way, and you're probably thinking, okay, you just gotta jump on them with dumb luck, right? PAH! Wrong. Look at this screen real closely. Notice that there's two vine plants between the moving platforms. The platforms are actually moving back and forth between the vines in the background. Like, that's such a neat detail. And each world has its own mechanics. There's always something new, and I never feel like one level is too similar to another. Like the plum, for example, you can jump on it to get to areas you couldn't reach up to, or use it to cruise through water, or place a plum on the living stone to make it safe to jump on their heads, and look how miserable they are with it. Heck, there's literally one level where half the stage is just riding a plum down a large slope filled with spike fruits going at high speed. Playing levels like these and the harder ones is part of the reason I still play this game. If you want another example of underrated level design in Rayman 1, I recommend watching Rayman's overlooked storytelling on BP Blungeon's channel. It's a really fun video, I recommend it. Anyway, there's a lot of enemies with unique ways to attack you, and they stay in their own worlds. Well, most of them. They don't overuse their enemies either, like you know the trumpets that push you around in the second Bandland level? Well, that's their only appearance in the game. The only enemies I find pretty annoying is the anti-tunes. They're not so bad in the beginning, but later on they start adding them into small platforms, which is really annoying. There's ones that fly around and even ones that are just in random spots that almost feels like it's there just to troll you. Now back to difficulty, like I said before, I don't think the game is as hard as people made it out to be. I mean sure, I died a few times, but I never got stuck in one area for too long. The only reason I couldn't beat it back then is because I couldn't find all the cages, and I grew up with the GBA version, which is based on the PC port that has cages in different spots, and it's much harder to find. Also, I have no idea how I got through that game with the screen that small. I feel like a lot of people never give Rayman 1 a chance because of how often reviewers describe this game as brutal and unforgiving. I cringe every time I see a Rayman 1 review and they end up using the 99 live code, or go to the password system and enter the 100% code. Like, why even play the game at all at that point? I feel like cheating makes you worse at the game and it completely ruins the experience. If you think Rayman 1 is brutal, look at Ninja Gaiden. That game has a bunch of enemy spawns, a really bad knockback, and a lot of pits. The game is so hard that a hitless run was considered impossible. It's not because there's so many enemies with cheap moves, or bosses with attack patterns that are hard to avoid. No, it's because the final boss has one move that you literally can't avoid, and your jump is too low to jump over the alien's head. You're pretty much forced to get hit by it. The only way to beat him without getting hit is by performing slash canceling, and get 16 hits before the alien's head attack, which is almost task-like. And this wasn't achieved until 30 years after the game's release. And you're telling me Rayman 1 is unfair? Look, my point is, there are way harder games than Rayman 1. Heck, at least you can get lives in Rayman 1. And you'd be pretty surprised how many lives are hidden in this game. You see those lives I saved up there? Yeah, I didn't cheat for those lives. That is actually how many lives I've saved in this playthrough. How did I get so many? Well, of course, I just searched through the stages. Collecting 100 teens gives you a life, of course. Doing the magician's bonus room. And you even get them just for doing something cool. Like if I just drop down here, hey, a life. Jump over the spikes, another life. Jumping over this spike ball, boom, another life. Like, this game pretty much rewards you with lives for styling. It makes searching for every life feels rewarding. And you can't get these lives back, which may seem kinda dumb. Though, personally, I think that's how life pickups should work in games. It's no fun when you can just grind for lives in the same level over and over. And there's even a speedrun category for collecting every life, and there's some I've missed, like, whoa, what? That's insane. Okay, time to wrap things up. So overall, I highly recommend Rayman 1. It's hard, but it's very satisfying to complete. It just takes a bit of practice. And believe me, playing through the game the second time is much better than your first playthrough. I mean, who knows, you might actually end up enjoying it. Well, that's it for Rayman 1. Now I'll start on Rayman 2. And hopefully I'll make a smaller script next time. Man, that took way too long. Alright, see you later.